Hello, I'm David Armstrong and welcome to highlights of Race Department's virtual Formula Abarth Championship, an Australian-based Assetto Corsa league taking place over 7 rounds. The 7th and final round of the season takes place around the Autodromo Nazionale Monza, certainly the most unique circuit on the calendar. The track's multiple long straights provide several overtaking opportunities, and with only 11 turns, minimal downforce is essential for the driver's setup. Taking his 3rd pole in a row, son Levi secured the top spot by 0.3 of a second in front of Akis Kevradikidis in 2nd. Chris Stacey had a strong session, placing 3rd, and Tony Benelli produced a surprise result, taking out 4th position. David Armstrong would start from 5th, ahead of a disappointed Justin Talent in 6th place. Fred Locklear just pipped Garland Dimov for 7th position, Noel Spence qualified in 9th, and Jamie Pyatt rounded out the top 10. To the race start, and as the lights went out, Kevradikidis was overly cautious off the line, quickly falling back 4 places. Benelli was compromised after having to avoid him, allowing Talent to storm down the inside and get alongside Armstrong. Levi and Stacey had an easy run down into the first corner, and Talent was able to take Armstrong for 3rd, with Benelli following through in 5th, but just behind Pyatt ran over the curbing, setting off a chain reaction, resulting in multiple contacts throughout the field. Both Pyatt and Triobsha were left beached in the sand trap, and Spence's suspension was damaged beyond repair. Down into the 2nd chicane, Fred Locklear was able to get alongside and beat Tony Benelli to the corner to move up into 5th position, with Akis Kevradikidis lurking just behind. Out of the 2nd Lesbo, Justin Talent made an uncharacteristic mistake, running wide onto the curb and being very lucky not to lose control. Just behind, Kevradikidis got a superior run down the back straight, pulling alongside Tony Benelli and ultimately making a simple pass into Ascari for 6th position. Kevradikidis continued his charge with a great run out of the Parabolica, using Fred Locklear's draft to his advantage and completing the overtake for 5th into the first turn. In the battle for 12th position, Aidan Kerrinan was also taking advantage of a slipstream, attacking Jack Trooper into the opening corner. Trooper did his best to defend as the pair went side by side through the tight chicane, but Kerrinan was able to come out on top. Not willing to yield though, Trooper made a late braking move into the next chicane while Kerrinan failed to make the corner, having to drive across the anti-cut strips, dropping him down into 14th behind João Malvez. Kevradikidis was still flying up the order, this time making an easy pass on Armstrong into Ascari to move up into 4th, the Greek driver now having regained 3 places in just 2 laps. Just behind, Fred Locklear carried too much speed into the Ascari, nearly spinning his car and losing 6th place to Tony Benelli. With no momentum, Locklear was a sitting duck for Frank Van Overen down into the Parabolica, but with Van Overen having sustained damage in the first lap, the Dutchman underestimated his turn-in and contact was made, sending Locklear flying into the sand trap. Matt Bailey was there to take full advantage of the contact, pulling alongside Van Overen to get in front down the straight for 7th place. Garland Dimov also found his way around Van Overen after the Dutchman had a lousy exit out of the first chicane. In 3rd place, Justin Talent was desperately trying to keep in contact with the leading pair, and he again had a very scary moment out of the 2nd Lesbo, doing well not to lose control. At the front of the race, son Levi was not having an easy time, with Chris Stacey keeping him very honest, the gap down to less than 0.8 of a second at the start of the 4th lap. Back in the midfield, Aidan Kerrinan regained some of his lost places, passing João Malvez down the main straight and then taking advantage of Jack Trooper's mistake out of the 2nd Lesbo to move up into 11th. Back in 3rd place, and with Justin Talent pushing as hard as he could, his luck finally ran out as he ran too wide into the first Lesmo, losing control, with Kevradikidis narrowly missing the spinning Australian. Having rear-ended the wall hard and ending up in an awkward position, Talent was forced to painstakingly wait for nearly the entire field to pass before he could safely rejoin the track. In the battle for 7th position, Garland Dimov had to go defensive against Frank Van Overen into the Parabolica, and the duo would end up driving side by side down the entire length of the start-finish straight. Van Overen's top speed was however slightly impaired due to damage. Dimov was on the inside and he outbraked his opponent into turn 1, but Van Overen would then slip up in the chicane, losing traction and allowing Ashley Cowan to get past for 8th place. However, Van Overen didn't want to give up the position and he had to look up the inside into the following chicane. With a late braking move and Cowan aggressively defending, the pair narrowly avoided contact with Aidan Kerrinan now getting in on the action, as Van Overen once again struggled for traction. The Dutchman would have to go defensive into Lesmo, with Kerrinan ultimately unable to find his way around. On the following lap, Kerrinan drafted past Van Overen down the main straight, but just ahead Ashley Cowan overran the first chicane exit, getting bogged down in the sand and dropping him down into 12th. With no end in sight to the battle, Van Overen made a bold outside pass on Kerrinan through the parabolica, but sure enough, Kerrinan simply drafted past down the main straight to get back out in front. Van Overen attempted to brake very late into the opening chicane, but he locked up badly, skipping across the curbing and having to yield the position back to Kerrinan. In first position, Son Levi was pushing hard to keep Chris Stacey at bay. The pair were swapping fastest lap times, with Levi unable to extend the gap by much more than a second. However, on lap 7, Stacey would be caught out by the second Lesmo, running wide onto the curb, and despite his best efforts, he made contact with the barriers, sustaining minor damage in the process. With a large enough gap over Akis Kevrakidis in third, Stacey maintained his position, but he would need to push hard to stay in second. Meanwhile, fourth placed Armstrong was coming under pressure from Tony Benelli in fifth, with Benelli slowly but surely closing down the gap lap by lap. Matt Bailey was having a lonely race, but doing well in sixth position ahead of Garland Dimov in 7th. However, Dimov was coming under pressure from Aidan Kerrinan, and eventually Dimov became another victim of the nasty curves, running too wide through Lesmo and losing control over the bumps, barely missing Kerrinan as he crashed into the barriers. Now in first place by over 8 seconds, Son Levi was enjoying a healthy lead, but in second place, Chris Stacey had Akis Kevrakidis bearing down on him. Dealing with the damage he'd sustained earlier, there was little Stacey could do to stop Kevrakidis from drafting past him. After his poor start, Kevrakidis had made an amazing recovery to get all the way back up into second place. Just behind, Armstrong remained in fourth, but fifth place Benelli was continually eating time out of the gap, and with less than a second between the pair, Armstrong was doing everything he could to keep Benelli out of his slipstream. Making it 7 wins from 7 rounds, Son Levi crossed the finish line with yet another superb performance, leading the race from start to finish. Akis Kevrakidis put in an incredible drive to fight his way up onto the second step of the podium, and Chris Stacey would take third place after a very hard-fought race. Armstrong held on to fourth position, but only by less than half a second from Tony Benelli, who achieved his best finish so far for 5th. Matt Bailey also had his best result to finish a lonely race in 6th position ahead of Aidan Kerrinan in 7th, who enjoyed a highly eventful race, along with Frank Van Overen, who would have to settle for 8th place. Joao Malvez once again kept his nose clean, advancing up 8 positions to finish in 9th, and reserve driver Ashley Cowan drove a strong race to finish in 10th. Having a look at the final driver standings, and the season really was dominated by Son Levi, the teenage Queenslander winning every round of the season to finish with 319 points. Justin Talent secured the silver trophy with an amazingly strong season, finishing in the top 4 in all but the last round. David Armstrong's consistency saw him narrowly hold on to third in the standings, while Akis Kevrakidis snatched 4th place in the final round with his strong finish at Monza. Chris Stacey had a mixed season but enjoyed 4 podium placings throughout the year, coming home in 5th place. Frank Van Overen showed some strong pace to lock down 6th position, and although absent from the last round, Michael Stead did enough to hold on to 7th place. Fred Locklear finished every race, which helped him to wrap up 8th position. Aidan Kerrinan advanced up into 9th after his strong results in the final round, and although finishing equal on points with Matt Bailey, Tony Benelli would round out the top 10 standings with his 5th place at Monza. We hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I'm David Armstrong, and we'll see you later on in the year for another Australian-based Assetto Corsa League hosted by Race Department.